It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse here. Patrick, I hope you're staying warmish. We're in it.
Woo.
We're in the middle of the first big cold snap, right? You can feel it. You feel it out there, don't you?
Yes, I was. I took a quick trip to Duluth and back yesterday, and the big lake didn't have any ice on it yet, but it looked like it was trying to form some, and it was a little breezy up there too. It was a little coolish too. I've been in Duluth when it's been colder, but yeah, it was. That drive. Those are the drives back when you want to make sure your car doesn't break down. You know,
Yes.
when you're. I was up there once, and the wind chill for a Gopher hockey game on a Friday night, way back when, and the wind chill was 110 below. That's when they did it. And we all went out and started our car between periods and let them run for like 10 minutes and then came back in. And I drove home that night and I was saying, I hope we make it here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're dead in 10 minutes. Yeah, well, everybody who depends on ice, if you're renting fish houses for a living, you're happy. You
Yes.
finally
Right.
finally got some cold. That's okay. No
That
snow, but at least got some cold. No snow here anyway. Southern Minnesota, I guess they
they
had
got
quite a bit,
pounded.
but
Yeah. So that
we
that
got
had
nothing.
that had to have been a youth hockey trip. You wouldn't have gone to Duluth for any other reason, right?
I had a story, but I also went
Okay.
up to see the granddaughter play hockey. Yes,
Okay.
I did, and
Perfect.
we defeated Hated Stillwater two to
Okay.
nothing.
Okay.
Last time we played them, we were ahead of them 2-0 with 4 minutes to go and got beat 3-2.
Ooh.
But
Oh.
the coach cleverly called a timeout this time with 2.5 minutes to go and said, "Get the puck out." you know,
There you go.
it was a triumph over a very good Stillwater team. So
Well,
anyway,
good. Congrats to them, and
Mhm.
hope you get to see some football in between all that because it was a pretty
I
interesting some interesting games, Patrick.
the best part was that I'm driving back. I ended up listening to a Cowboys broadcast, radio broadcast. I think it was Danny White. I
Okay.
think Danny White's their guy because
Okay.
they kept calling him Danny, and he was a former quarterback, so it's got to be
Yes.
Danny
Stands to
White.
reason. Yeah.
He was killing CC Lamb. He was butchering him. He said, I've had receivers." He said, "I never had it very often, but I had receivers who started pouting when they didn't get the ball early." And did not, he was basically ripping the hell out of him the whole first half. And then, of course, maybe he should have concentrated a little more on ripping the defense.
Yeah.
Man,
48
why?
points.
What a
Jeez.
performance. What a one was an interception, right?
Yes.
But
Yes. Well,
yeah,
I think it was a pick six in there, Jair Alexander.
and do we worry about Dak as a clutch player? I think we do, don't we? After that one, he was terrible, wasn't he? I mean, once they got hopelessly behind, they got some points. But wow, what a turnaround for the Packers, man! They were 2-5, right?
Two and
Something
five
like
and
that.
three
Two
and
and five.
six and 6 and 8.
God,
I mean, they
yeah.
like needed everything to go right those last 3 weeks of the regular season, and it did. And now they're
What was
now they're playing as well as anybody right now.
And what was interesting was they took the ball to start the game. That was the
Yes.
message, right? We
Yeah.
can move the ball on you, and it looked stupid because they were like 3rd and 11 or something, right? They got the first two plays. They're gonna okay. You don't take. Nobody takes the ball anymore. They
Right.
take the ball. They're gonna have to punt, and then he throws a pass, and the receiver at Dobbs is wide open, I guess, in the middle of the field, and they 4 or 5 times they threw that same pass, and he was open. But according to the broadcast I was listening to, whoever this Dobbs guy is, they didn't cover him, and he was hauling them in. And man alive, what a beating! I tell you, my I had a sweatshirt on, but my NFC North pride was bursting through my chest. I was so happy. And then the Lions come. Man, I don't
Right.
know about the rest. I think as NFC North aficionados, we should be filled with pride this morning.
I don't think you're being serious, but I think it was an interesting day, right? Like everything, even though the Vikings aren't in the playoffs, everything here gets seen through the lens of what it means for the Vikings, and this has not been a great last month or two for them because you go back to when they were 6-4 when the Pastronaut seemed like he was the second coming of, I don't know, whoever,
Case
some
Keenum.
great Case Case
Case Keenum.
Keenum morphed with like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes,
Yes,
just this
right.
playmaking, this the luck with the
Mobile
playmaking.
playmaking.
Just
Yeah.
this amazing playmaking. They're 6-4, and everything falls apart, right? And now the Bears got better at the end of the year and have the first pick and another like top 10 pick too, I think. Packers surge into the playoffs. Lions win the division easily. They're the 2 seed. They're going to get another home game in the playoffs. They're
Yes.
through to the second round. The two teams in the last 8 now out of the playoff teams. Like going into 24, and we're not going to speed too far ahead because there's a lot of playoffs left. But going into 24, Vikings feel like fourth of four, don't they? They feel like the
Yeah.
fourth out of four.
Heaven, Jess. And don't forget that the Packers are doing this with the youngest roster in
Yes.
the NFL and allegedly one of the youngest rosters in NFL
I
history.
read
They're
that. Yeah,
doing
was that
this.
Mark Craig who
Yeah.
wrote that? I can't remember who wrote that,
Yeah.
but I saw that.
Well, I kept hearing that on the radio about the youngest team in the NFL and one of the youngest ever. And let's face it, all these receivers, the only one he ever heard of was that Christian Watson, who the guy from North Dakota State who didn't play until yesterday. He'd been out about a month. But these other guys, I don't even know who they are.
Right.
Wick and Dobbs, who has had a good year,
Dobbs and
and
Reed, I think, is pretty good.
all these guys, they got this young collection of receivers. Then they got Aaron Jones, who makes twice as good as any back the Vikings have had. Forget Delvin Cook and those guys. This guy's great. And all of a sudden, yes. And Jordan Love he had the one real stinker against the Bears down the stretch. But beyond that, he's just looks like a completely different human being than he did the first half of the season as a quarterback. So it's yeah. I mean, the Packers is the Packers rebuild didn't last as long as we wanted it to, did it?
They didn't even call it a competitive one, yet it was competitive.
No.
Yet it was competitive.
Yes, it was. And plus, they figured out how to get Jordan Love kind of wrapped up for 3 years or something. They got some options on him that they gave him some deal.
He's for next year at least. I can't remember what the deal is.
It wasn't picking up the fifth year,
Right.
but it was. I think they gave him a 3-year contract, but for less money, than they would have had to pay him. Now they're probably gonna have to turn around and pay him a bunch. But they they're obviously big underdogs going to San Francisco, and their defense ended up getting shredded at the end, but and they're probably going to get beat. But wow, they changed the narrative on where they were in the future. It's about time. The whole thing is about time the Packers had to suffer with a mediocre quarterback like everybody else.
Right.
Twice, even if he was healthy, you'd all rather have this guy than Aaron Rodgers. The way Aaron Rodgers, people forget Aaron Rodgers played terrible last year.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah, he was not that good. So it wasn't, it wasn't like. But this guy, who's got to be walking around a relieved human being, Brian Gutekunst.
Yes.
What were the odds at midseason of him being back next year? I would say very low.
Not great. And
very low.
LaFleur's got to be happy too, like because he's here's your hand-picked successor, and it wasn't going great. But yeah, both of those guys. Yeah, I don't know if they were on like the immediate hot seat, but they were. It was not going well for him for sure. That's for sure.
And then Detroit is. They made hard work of it again, but the Rams are pretty good. Stafford was playing okay. I saw most of that game, and he's that was people are the Lions are getting a lot of heat because they took the low hit on a receiver again, just like they did with Hawkinson here. But I don't know. I mean, it's a legal tackle, right? So.
Right.
Maybe it's not what you like to see, but it's a legal tackle. But they're going to be home. They get Tampa Bay or the Eagles. They should be in the conference finals. They can double. They can double their playoff victory total since 1957.
It's amazing.
Yeah, people talk. Well, they haven't won a playoff game in 32 years. Yes, and they've won one in 60.
70 years, almost 70 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
right.
amazing.
It is amazing. I can't imagine how crazy that town is. I'm happy for Frank Ragnow. He was, he
Oh,
lost his
yeah.
dad. He lost his dad when he was playing at Arkansas. Just suddenly, he was really tight with him, and I talked to him a few times. Really good dude, big, brawling, good dude, hell of a player, and that's the secret of them. I mean, they got the five first and second rounders on that offensive line. That's
So do the
probably the best.
Vikings. So do the
Yeah,
Vikings. Just doesn't quite work out the
that's true.
same.
Yeah, they haven't been the same, but they they finally got a general manager there who's not an idiot, which is really accomplishment. I
Yes.
mean, for 100 years they had Bill Ford's drinking buddy. What was his name? Russ something. He was
Can't
the
remember.
guy, and then they had Matt Millen,
Matt
who was a
Millen.
complete moron, and they just was so disorganized that it's. I mean, it was just always just a joke of a franchise, and now to have
Yeah.
this happen, and I've said on this podcast a couple of times, you thought when you saw Campbell at first that they have hired themselves another buffoon, that's and it turns out, how long it'll last. He's probably a
Right.
mediocre character, but it's fun. It's amazing. Something the NFL really needs. The quality of, we've talked about it. The officiating all screwed up again this week, and yeah, we've talked about what a bad year this was for just quality of football. So you see those two happenings yesterday. They're pretty good for the league because you get the Packers. You always love to have the Packers, and then the Lions are making this
Right.
unbelievable run. So it was a good day for the NFL finally in this rotten year that they've been having.
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
Except for the Vikings, because not just having these two teams, even if you want to burst your NFC North pride out of there,
Yeah, oh man.
I know, I know. Not only do you have these two teams that look like they're pretty good for the foreseeable future, and the Bears on the rise, but now you had Sunday was the anniversary, not a milestone anniversary, but 23 years of 41 Donut, and then Wednesday, which I'll dedicate a lot of the show Wednesday to 25 years since Wide left, lost to the Falcons in the overtime of the NFC title game, and that one was kind of the original. Like that was the team that could do no wrong, and then until it couldn't.
Yeah, and that was the team that changed I mean, Randy Moss came in. He changed the narrative. I've always said that we went from pessimists to optimists, and all these years later, 25 years later, the fan base still always takes they get down on the Vikings, they get upset, but they don't get there. The fatalism isn't there.
Right.
The defense of the Vikings is stronger now than it was before Randy Moss in 1998, which is kind of interesting because I think, now I can make a case for the first Super Bowl, too, as the worst day in Viking history because nobody could believe it. But I think that was the worst day in Viking history, that loss. Because I remember my friend Mark Wicker, because we'd been in Pittsburgh a year or two beforehand. In Pittsburgh, I think it was a mediocre Chargers team came to town, and there was the idea of the home team losing never occurred to anybody in Pittsburgh until it happened that day.
Yeah.
And Wicker came up to me before the game and said, it's the same vibe we had in Philadelphia because we were both in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Because we were both there for that AFC title game. And it was absolutely, I mean, nobody in town considered the fact they might not win against a 14-2 team. So
Right.
anyway, Yeah, it's a week of fine memories. That's for sure.
Fine memories.
41 donut though
Yeah.
is the Viking. What we all forget about 41 donut is the Vikings were road favorites.
Yes. That's the
They
amazing thing.
were
Like,
like 2.5 point
yeah, people
favorites.
thought that I think it was only 1 or 1.5 by kickoff, and everyone
Yeah,
was like, the Giants are not that good. The Vikings are kind
no.
of getting back into it. They got everybody healthy again. They had just steamrolled Dallas, right, in the
Yes,
playoffs
yes,
that year. Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
not
right.
not
The
not Dallas. That was the Saints
home
that year.
game
It was the Saints
they
that
beat.
year.
Yeah, right. They beat somebody up at
It
home,
was the
and
Saints. Yeah.
yeah, well, I remember Sid, who was rarely wrong. Sid saying to me before that, that I traveled out there with him, and he was saying, "I've never seen Denny so optimistic. He knows they're going to win." I said, how's that working out, Sid?
Oh man. Oh man.
Unbelievable.
Well,
But yeah, anyway, the NFC North, great day for the NFC North. Maybe not great day for the Vikings when you look at the future, because when is the last time you even in this 4 team division, which has been 20 some years now, that you went into a year saying we got the worst team in the division?
that's
Not
very
too
true.
often,
No,
unless there maybe the one year and
maybe
you know
2011. Yeah, that's
yeah
about it.
2011. Yeah, not too often as the Lions fans. Not too often will the Lions fans have a chance to say, "How could we lose to the Vikings?" you know,
Right?
it's always the other way around forever and ever and ever. So yeah, but the Packer thing is just an
It is.
astounding turnaround from what just looked like. Okay, maybe 3 years from now they'll have it back together, and here they are.
Here they are in the
It's
playoffs, winning a playoff game. Same. Jordan
there's a
Love has
little.
the same number of playoff wins as Kirk Cousins.
Yes, he does, Kirk. But the Kirk crowd's still out there trying to convince us that the only reason
Yes.
that they're not doing well is, I don't know. You got to look at this now. This gives you even more reason not to bring him back, doesn't it?
Yes. Like, it's okay if you're not great or even kind of bad in 24. Like, you gotta, at some point, you just gotta kind of reset a little bit. You gotta say, you know what? We don't have to give ourselves the best chance to go 10-7 next year.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
got to be, there's got to be a little bit more long-term vision and roster turnover. Maybe they kind
Mhm.
of started it last year and they tried to have it both ways, but there's not enough talent. It's not just the quarterback, but the salary makes a difference, and there's just not enough talent around him to make you think that they're capable of building a Super Bowl caliber team in the window that he would still be quarterback. It's not
I
just
got
about how good
news.
he is.
I got news for them. They played pretty good defensively for the a good share of the season, but
Yes.
a lot of it was smoke and mirrors, and they got a lot of work to do in that secondary, man.
Yes.
Especially if Harrison Smith walks away. They have right now. They got zero cornerbacks basically. I mean, Murphy was okay, but he get beat. He gets beat a lot for big plays. So they got a lot of work. It's not just you got to fix the offense and and figure out what you're going to do with quarterback. You got to fix the defense too.
Is is
Yeah,
is there a position group on that team aside from maybe wide receiver, like the pass catchers, that doesn't need an upgrade, like a talent
yeah,
infusion? I
yeah.
can't think of one that doesn't.
And the offensive line, which you were kind of optimistic about early on with Dersau and O'Neill, and now they got all spotty. But I've been saying for a couple of weeks, we got injuries on the offensive line. Well, everybody does.
Yeah,
How many
everybody does.
offensive lines stay healthy? None.
Right. No.
You're asking 315-pound men to do stuff you've never asked them to do before,
Yes.
and against better athletes. It doesn't work. Calves and knees and everything else get injured. You're going to lose 2 out of your 5 guys every year. So you need depth there. So anyway, yeah, but it was, I think for the NFL in general, when you can get people as crazy as they are in Detroit right now, and it's being celebrated all over the country, really. And then the Packers being back, that's a pretty great day for the NFL.
Yes, better day for the NFL. I want to get to basketball in a minute, but better day for the NFL than it was for the Wild, who had to go to the dreaded players only meeting after the
Oh,
6-0 home loss to Arizona. Now, Arizona's not as bad as they had been. They're actually decent this year. They're kind of a fringe playoff contender, but you lose 6-0 at home. You give Nick Bugstead a hat trick. Maybe
Yes.
that
Yes.
automatically triggers a players
Yes.
only meeting clause in
Yeah.
your team contract, because that's not
You know,
good.
the Bugler had what, 5 goals, and he hadn't
He hadn't
had
had
more
one
than
for a while.
one in that season in about 3 years, and he goes out and gets three against them.
Yeah.
6-0. It's yeah, that was horrible. And but the player we've held. I started covering the Twins in '74, so I've
Yes.
been covering majorly. I covered high schools basically before that. But so we didn't have many team meetings with the high schools. But I mean, usually the coach was involved. But '74, we've been the sports writers, we've been looking for that team meeting.
Oh yeah.
Can we get? Wait, you think it's time for a players only meeting? Yeah, maybe. I
Right.
love the players only meetings.
Yes.
They're hysterical. Oh, come on, guys, we got to try harder. Blah blah blah. Calling each other out. The team meeting. God, it's ridiculous. But you got to write about it because everybody else does. Everybody writes about the team meeting.
Wonder how now there's a lot of season left, and they were
aren't
hurt.
any good.
No, they're not. They were hurt for a lot of this stretch, but we just know that they're, even when they were healthy, they weren't that great. They already got a coach fired. What, I just still trying to sort out like what this all means by the end of the year, just for the organizational direction and philosophy. Like how, I think the ownership likes Guerin, but this has not been a great year for Bill Guerin.
You're gonna get a little. Aren't you finally getting? Well, one thing
Not next
is,
year. Next year, you still got all the cap stuff.
No. What I'm saying is, finally, you're gonna get some leakage with the tickets.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I
Maybe.
mean, it looked. I'll tell you what. Somebody told me I think Judd told me or something, that the third period there were about 3,000 people left during that. Everybody started going home, and that's
Yes.
a lot of money to spend. The other thing is, though, if you're bad enough and you get like the fourth draft choice, and he's
Right.
not Connor Bedard, but somebody, some phenom that you can publicize, and maybe you can get him fired up again. I don't know, but it's I don't know. I get the impression. It's possible there's going to be some fall off here, that all of a sudden you're going to go there and they're going to announce an attendance. They're going to lie about it for a while, but I think that there's a lot going on in this town, and that's a lot. They've been loyally supported for unbelievable amount of years without really getting much reward for it. And sometimes people are going to have to start looking at it and said, okay, four of us went to the game and we spent $600. That's
Right.
that's gonna. I think they should. I don't think they should be in a panic yet, but they better be concerned about it. The last time they were in this situation, they signed Suter and Parisi.
Yes.
We now blame all the problems on it.
Right.
Guys.
Because they're still paying for it this year and next year. And would have anyway.
Yeah, I think Guerin is a mercurial character. He's got a chance to flame out. I really do think that he's he's got the bad blip on his record from this year now, and he was there waiting to get hired a lot of years and had a lot of interviews without getting hired. I think he's kind of this hot-headed guy, and see how that works. It used to work in hockey. Maybe it doesn't work as well as it used to, but anyway.
Maybe John Hines isn't the answer. Maybe the team is just not that good.
As we've already said, though, we already did the coaching change.
You already did that.
That's the big thing. That's the other thing. And now the team meeting. If that doesn't work, I'd say we're out of luck. I think we had a team meeting or players only meeting earlier this year too.
Right.
When Evanson was still around. So
right.
I don't know. They're an easy team to ignore right now.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. The only reason I got mildly intrigued last week was when they finally played the rookie goalie, and then he gave up 7. So
Yeah, that's
that kind
right.
of dampened that enthusiasm. I think he'll still be good, but that's that.
I heard people trying to make him feel better, and I think Russo. I heard a post game interview, and I was in a car and listened to it. And
Mhm.
Russo said, "Oh, you looked like you didn't lose your composure," and he said, "That was on the outside." The kid said, kid basically said he was dying on the
Yeah,
inside. So,
kind of reminded me of. I think it was. This is totally. I don't know why this comes to mind, but I think Jose Barrios had a first start like that in the majors, where everybody
yeah,
had touted him. He came in, he just
yeah,
gave up like 7 runs in an inning and a half, and it was just terrible. And then he was fine after that. So you don't want to make too much out of a debut, but it's kind of shows it's just the nerves get to the nerves and the step up in talent, and you start to not have the success you're used to having. These guys are human. It's just interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's it's in that sport, if you let in one that you feel you shouldn't have, you're still worried about the one you just let in. They
yeah.
put another one by you, and pretty soon, boom, they got 7 of them. That's not good.
Royal Credit Union's smart checking accounts offer no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Enjoy financial freedom when you open your Royal Credit Union smart checking account online at rcu.org/go checking. Insured by NCUA.
Wolves much better. Let's talk some Wolves and some Gopher basketball before we get out of here. Beat the Clippers yesterday, had the romp over the Blazers, who were just terrible. Blazers had lost by like how great, what a great scheduling gift to get after your big like 16 game stretch. You had just lost that tough game to Boston. You get the Blazers on a back-to-back the night after they'd lost to Oklahoma City by like 67 points.
62.
Something like that. It was a 60. I don't want to besmirch their reputation by making it too lopsided. But yeah, that was a gift Friday, and then they beat the Clippers last night. I mean, we know this is a good team. It's a good team.
Well, the Clippers got some offensive talent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Paul George is making shots. But my favorite stat is Scoot Henderson for Portland.
Yeah.
2 games in a row. He was a minus 51 against Oklahoma City, and he improved by 24 points. He was only a minus 27 against the Timberwolves. So Scoot's plus minus is going to be a little down, and 78 points. But it was nice that Portland comes to town. They just lost by 62, and you're 20 ahead of them in the first quarter.
Yes,
okay,
you just know.
Don't put any drama into this. Just kick the living bejeebers out of them. But that was a nice victory yesterday. One reason being, Ant played a little team ball.
Yes.
And, it was okay. Ant's, they got Ant calmed down here a little bit for the last couple of games after he, felt it was just personal responsibility to take every shot in a couple of those losses. So, he seems bad. Rudy, Rudy's tearing it up because the Clippers tried to go small against them, so they just went big against them, and they that's worked. They looked good yesterday. I watched most of that. They looked. The Clippers came back, hit some shots, and made a game out of it. And Rudy had to make some free throws, but. It was that's a nice win because the Clippers had won 17 out of 20, something.
Yeah,
like
they've
that.
been on a roll. They had a bad stretch early in the year, but they kind of figured it out with. I mean, they got like if this was 2017, this would be like the greatest team of all time. Like they got Paul George, right. Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. Like imagine having all those guys on your team.
That's right. It's what's amazing is Kawhi's agreed to play too.
Yeah.
I mean, Kawhi is missing like. He's, that guy, to me, he's the biggest phony in basketball because he didn't play his last 60 games in San Antonio that year without a major injury because he knew he was going to free agency. And then when things are going bad, he just doesn't play and he comes up with some injury. But, man, he's good. But when he does play, he's the reason Toronto won a NBA title. Yeah. So when he plays. When he plays, he's a son of a gun. But what's their payroll? My God,
I mean, these payrolls are ridiculous. Yeah.
it's got to
Yeah.
be unbelievable because
They don't care. Their owner he's got more money. Is it Ballmer? Is that who the owner is right now?
Ballmer, yeah,
He's got more money than,
yeah,
everybody in this state will see in their lifetime. But it's here's my thought on the Wolves. I don't know if I haven't ever thrown this theory out to you, but there was some tension last year, and all of it was, it's not trying to figure out the roster. I think it makes a difference for a team when everybody has gotten paid and they can just go play basketball. You got Towns has his deal. Ant's got his deal. McDaniels has his deal. Nas has got his deal. Rudy's already had his deal. Conley's set. He's a veteran. He doesn't care about the money anymore. He's maybe wants one more contract. But when you've got a team where all your primary guys aren't worried about their next contract, they could just go and play.
All right, I got a question for you. Should have they not been so anxious to sign McDaniels?
Maybe
he can guard you. That's a lot of money, though, and he's a knucklehead. Man, I threw a basketball at a ref the other day because he was upset. And in a game, you're winning by 60 points or something. I don't know. There's something wrong with him. He's got this. He's still an immature guy, but he's good defensively. But he certainly don't need him offensively.
As good as Alexander Walker has been this year, you could say McDaniels is a sneaky candidate to be the one that goes, right? Like if they decide at the end of the year that they don't want to be in the luxury tax, that they got to get out of it, and someone's got to go and they got to figure out the salaries, big picture. Maybe it's him. I mean, I don't know. I think they like him a lot. I don't think it's a bad idea to do that contract because the NBA is weird. It's never bad. It seems like it's never bad to have a big contract because someone will want him, and then you've got that kind of salary match. Like a team like the Wolves can't sign free agents. You've got to be able to have trade partners, and he's at least a good kind of trade match if you decide to do that. And I think he still makes them go defensively, and that's their identity. So I don't think they're in a hurry to trade him. But he would be. I've been thinking about that too. Like, is he a sneaky candidate? We all focus on me specifically. I focus on Cat. Like, is Cat the odd man out after they sign Reed, and how much money he makes? Does he not really fit? He's been a lot better this year. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's McDaniels. Maybe they like Alexander Walker and have to say, hey, why don't you stick around? We'll pay you half what we're paying McDaniels, and we'll go get another piece with Jaden.
Yeah, could be something like that. I don't know. He just strikes me. I don't know him. I've seen him interviewed and listened to him a little bit, but he's not much personality there, and he's always seems haunted by bad thoughts or something. They're out to get me. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
I don't know. He does some very immature things still. So
yes, he's an important part of a good Wolves team, of a really good Wolves team. But yeah, he's not had the growth or the leap that you might like to see him take this year. I think that's fair to say. Let's wrap up with some Gophers. Men lose to Indiana, crash back to earth a little bit. Big one tonight against Iowa. It's an afternoon game or night game tonight? I can't remember.
At 5:00.
5:00. Okay.
Martin Luther King Day. I guess it's 5:00. But I remember when the Iowegians used to storm up here and fill up the upper deck and let's go Hawks coming from up there high in the thing, and the building was jammed. And now it's going to be that way, except it's going to be for Caitlin Clark on February 28th or something like that. And I was not. The men aren't even selling out down there like they used to. They're mediocre this year. They started 0-3 in the Big Ten. Now they're 2-3, but they same thing as they always are with McCaffrey. They play fast and score a lot of points. And the Gophers the front line seemed to be the strength of the Gophers, but they got out muscled down in Indiana. So I don't know. It's a coin flip game, and it'd be nice if some people show up, but we'll find out. We were bragging about the attendance for last time and how the Williams Arena was rocking again. And then they announced like 8,500 or something, which means they had 6,000. The way they've been packing
padding the numbers,
padding the numbers. Marcus's story couple of weeks ago that they didn't have, going into that game last week with Maryland, they hadn't had 4,000 people go through the get scanned in game, not even the Nebraska game. So, it's not exactly optimism reigns now, and I think we've kind of gotten over our skis about the turnaround, but it's certainly a better team. They got some depth.
Yes,
they
I agree.
Eight or nine players. I like the front line. I like Garcia offensively. I really like Payne and Ola Joseph. The way they go to the boards. They're a couple of tough kids. And, the guards had a lousy game, and the guards had a lousy game in Indiana, and that's probably why they got beat. I mean, a lot of points up front, but the guards did nothing. But they got four guards, and they got 4 or 5 guys. I mean, they can bring Fox off the bench and Einen off the bench, so at moments they can go 5 deep up front too. So they have some depth. They're better, but the trouble is their schedule is so rotten.
Yes,
and their strength of schedule is so rotten. They can go 11-9 in the Big Ten and not make the tournament.
No, I agree with that.
They're still gonna have to win 2 games in the tournament, or almost 3, because they don't want to get beat. They want to pad their record. So, but the strength of schedule is, according to Ken Palm, it was the worst in the country.
Worst in the country,
Who you should have been. I think he is kind of rated like who you should be playing, right? It's not it's not a worse schedule than Coastal Carolina or something, but who you should be playing. It was the worst schedule in the country. So, and one more thing, how about St. Thomas men and women's basketball? St. Thomas men win 2 games last week, including at Oral Roberts, and Chip had a piece on them on Sunday, and I think they're now 3-1 in the Summit or something. So
they almost beat who they almost beat earlier this year. Was it
Marquette?
Marquette, it was a close game,
and they're still doing it with their best player. Signed with Virginia, left them in the portal, that freshman.
Yes.
And I don't know, we didn't think they were going to have that good a year, but now I did find something out, though, this week. I've been giving the Gophers a load of heat for not playing St. Thomas, right?
Yes.
Well, I was talking to Pat McKenzie, the St. John's coach, and he says, we're willing to play St. Thomas. St. Thomas is playing Crown and North Central, and they play in 2 Division III teams. And I think St. Thomas might not want to play St. John's for the same reason the Gophers might not want to play St. Thomas. So
not a lot of upside in that game.
If you get one of those nights where they're, but they definitely can have an exhibition game. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, maybe
I've been giving Tower the big break by bashing the Gophers. I'm gonna have to start ripping Tower for not playing St. John's. So anyway.
Hey, I will say about the Iowa game today, it's a big one for the turnaround narrative. If you lose this one, then you got to go to Michigan State. Michigan State's not great, but if you lose this one, you can start to see the slide. So you got at Michigan State, home against Wisconsin. The competition is getting better. They benefited not just from non-conference schedule, but some winnable early Big Ten games too. Even Michigan's a name brand, but they're not very good this year. Like the teams they beat, take it away from them, but those are not the best teams in the Big Ten. And the Gopher women, they beat Nebraska yesterday. They got all the players were back. All the 20-year players were back.
Players were there. Somebody told me Coyle wasn't there, but then I checked. He was there, but he did not involve himself in the program, which I don't blame him, because he did fire Lindsay, and it was Kent Youngblood had a really good story on Lindsay. I'm ready to come back to Williams Arena, and she had a good time with all her mates, and I got to cover that whole tournament run and to cover that team a little bit after that year, and that that 03-04 women's team is as much fun as we've ever had with any basketball team around here, men or women, because they had some characters, man. And McCarville being number one.
She remains. I covered the team. Yes, I covered that team the next year, and she remains one of my favorite people to cover. She was just a all-time great, all-time great.
Oh, she was fantastic. Still is. I talk to her
Yes.
once in a while, and she used to kind of celebrate a victory by going out to Mystic Lake and playing cards.
She'd go play cards. Yes, she did.
Yeah,
Yes, she did.
played cards. She was great, man. She's great. I should have. I wasn't in town. I should have went over just to see her. I love her. She's the greatest. What she did in that second round game against Nicole Oldie.
Yeah.
Oh man, she did everything but pick her up and throw her off the floor. It was unbelievable.
Yes.
What a beating! Poor Nicole Oldie had a meaty. Some of it with our legs, right? I don't think she ever got over the trauma of that game. She never became the player she was supposed to be. So.
It was a bad draw for number 2 seeded Kansas State that year to be at Williams Arena for the second round.
Yeah, how did we get the home game to get the play? Because usually you go to the place of the highest seed. Yeah,
it must have been predetermined back then that they were going to have I don't remember because they hosted the regional the next year too, because that's how they took that to the Sweet 16 the next year. They hosted again. I don't know.
That other team they beat, they were a 6 seed, right? 6 seed.
Gophers were 7 that year. Gophers were 7.
And UCLA was good too. They had for a 10 seed or whatever they were, because the first round was UCLA, right? And
I think that's right. Yeah,
they had some athletes. That was as shocking as 13,000 people showing up for a pro women's hockey game. Having all of a sudden we get there and there's 14,000 people to watch the Gophers play UCLA. It was amazing. Including Sid.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
spry young Sid, who was only in his early 80s at that point.
Yeah. But all right.
All right, sir. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next.
NFC North. Hoo-ha! Hoorah! Aren't we proud? I'm proud. I don't care about the rest of you. I'm proud. Goodbye.
See ya. Bye.